Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another outstanding edition of Inclusion Matters Podcast and Inclusion Pro Wrestling. Tonight, we welcome Proc Johnson. Again, I'm joined by God knows why we had to call him the crippled Messiah. He thinks he knows it all, but if you really listen to his voice, he sounds like paint drying. Maybe he's over his Orange Cassidy crush now since he got his ass kicked by Jon Moxley. But we'll have to wait and see. Of course, myself, I'm the heartbreaker. Why? Because I'm the man every woman desires. I'm the man that every woman dreams about. I'm the man that every woman wants.
In his head only.
Did I ask for any flack from you there, Messiah?
No.
And then shut your yip until I ask for your opinion. Of course, by his absence, Mr. Principal Tapass, who said he had football practice tonight for the Special Olympics, has not joined us yet. So, again, Principal Tap is not an excuse to be missing your job for practice. So, with that being said, I'd like to start off with some breaking news tonight. Our wrestling promotion has now acquired 3 new sponsors that we want to thank very much before we get started with the interview. So, our brand new sponsors are Pro Caliber Motorsports in Vancouver, Washington, LifeWorks here in Longview, Washington, and Sterling Honda. So for all your vehicle needs that are Hondas, used, news, go see Sterling Honda. And now, if Mr. Messiah can stop sounding like paint drying, I'll leave it to him.
Well, I'd like to introduce our guest, which is Mr. Proc Johnson. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How about y'all?
Good. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, been a lifelong fan of wrestling, especially when I was younger. Here in my hometown of Albany, where I'm at right now, Albany, Georgia. I've got memories that go back to being at the Civic Center and having John Cena and Big Show actually have a match there, and something that stuck with me, and one of the reasons why I probably haven't been the biggest Cena fan all my life is I vividly remember John Cena yelling "Cena sucks," and then just a crowd of boos followed behind it. But as far as my own life, I've been a lifelong athlete. Played football all throughout high school. Went to college on a academic and football scholarship, and then after I got that, done with that, I went to a wrestling show with a fraternity brother and ended up getting into it with the bad guys. And later on, they were like, "Well, y'all want to train?" And my buddy did. And a week later, I came out, and that was going on 6 years ago. But just been doing it ever since, and just been having a lot of fun with it. Something I never really thought I'd get an opportunity to do, but I got the opportunity and I took it.
Nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you got to jump on those opportunities.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now joining us is finally Mr. Principal Tapass, who said he was going to be here at 6:05, and you are 3 minutes late. So you not only do you get a demerit, you also get a detention, sir.
Yeah. I was helping with an injury.
Yeah. Okay, Messiah, ask your first question.
So, how would you describe your character?
Well, I actually take a good bit from my own life. Proc the Croc. Well, it's my take kind of on the whole Jake the Snape type vibe, especially with the name. It's the name I got when I was in college with the fraternity, and I take from it a lot that I grew up on. I grew up, hunting pretty much anything. I was a farm boy for the most part, and one of those happened to be gator, and I just kind of took with it and rode with it. What's bigger than a gator? Croc. and that's pretty much been it. Come to out to the ring, all out in camo. Got a singlet with got gators on it. Big one in the center, that kind of thing, coming up out of the swamp. And I've actually done several promos where I'll be out there in the swamp water and I'll come up out from underneath it and just start going. Got a lot of the inspiration from that off of the old Skinner promos that Steve Kern used to do back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. As you were describing that, that's exactly what I was thinking of. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hadn't gone the whole hog and put on the overalls like a lot of folks want, but still time, I reckon.
all right, Heartbreaker, what do you got?
Well, I'll leave the top 5 questions for Principal Tap because he loves asking the top 5 questions because he thinks he's just the coolest top 5 question asker in the world. So I'll lead with this.
You can't be that cool wearing a neon shirt. I'm just saying.
So I'll just lead with this question. What is your pre and post match routine?
Normally pre-match, I will kind of get an idea of everything. Main thing I've learned through trial and error is got to stay hydrated. I've been in some buildings, famous Landmark Arena in Cornelia, Georgia, that AJ Styles, Abyss, Hernandez all came from. Been there with no AC in the middle of July, having to go, in a 15 minute match against a 400-pounder. You learn real quick that you need to hydrate and be properly fueled up. So main thing I try to do is try to make sure I get some, good nutrition, get some good fluids, and then just try and do my best to relax because I'm already amped up and ready to go. But main thing I just try to do is just try and keep it bottled until it's time to come out. But also it helps me, to say a quick prayer for myself, everyone I'm going in there with, and just try to have a good mindset that we're going to go in the same way we came out. But as far as post match depends on the location. If we happen to be at a bar, brewery, I'll try and crack open a cold one and just kind of unwind a little bit. A lot of the times I got a buddy, Hold My Beer Hansen, and his tag partners, William Huckabee and Jay Too Strong, part of the All-Star Special, and they got that name for a reason. They love them some Waffle House. So a lot of times after a match, we'll go and lay it down on some Waffle House. But for the most part, I just try and stay in the back, with the folks back there, and try and learn if I can, and if not, we're gonna have a good time regardless.
Very cool. The reason we all laughed is our last podcast that we did was with Hold My Beer Hansen. So
I'm so sorry that y'all had to put up with him. I'm so sorry you had to listen to his tall tales. That's my boy, though. I love him, hate him, or in between. He's always gonna be there. That's a good cat.
Yep. All right, Tap, what you got?
Okay, I'm gonna throw a curve.
Go ahead.
Nope. Go ahead, Principal Tap Ass. You're up.
Okay, I'm gonna throw a little curve in there. Which member of the Midnight Express is the most underrated wrestler?
Bobby Eaton.
Yep.
I got a guy, or there's a guy I look to as a mentor, Todd Sexton. Used to tag with Masada. Was a member of the Ted Petty Invitational for IWA Mid-South years ago. But he'll send me footage and a lot of homework kind of stuff. And one of the main things he sent me was one of those videos that Stevie Richards has been doing. If you check out his YouTube, he has this in-depth series going through and breaking down a lot of matches and that kind of thing. But one of his recent ones was Bobby Eaton, and looking at all the moves that you really wouldn't think about being as innovative as they were back then. But that leg sweep that he used to have and the float over he used to do is really one of the most underrated moves as far as, being in the time period and, for as advanced as it was for what you were seeing around then. But I'd say Bobby Eaton.
And the reason why I say that is, and I'm throwing this out there, shame on Eric Bischoff and shame on Vince McMahon for not pushing him to a world championship title.
I'm right there with you. Right there with you. He definitely made a lot of stars, but should have probably had a lot put more back into him.
Absolutely.
Whoa, listen to Principal Tapass get a little spunky tonight.
There you go.
Well, and the other thing to remember about Bobby Eaton is, and people take it for granted now, that top rope leg drop, that Tennessee Jam that he did was like devastating back then. And back then, nobody had done that. Now you see everybody doing it. So if
Yep.
he wouldn't have broken that out first, then.
And I can tell you firsthand, when I first started training, I used to break that move out a lot. And then I started, during the same time I was bouncing, and I'd have to sit up on a stool for 5-6 hours a night. Well, 260 pounds doing that during training combined with sitting on a stool for 6 hours is not a good combination. And so I learned to quickly try that move real fast. But it was a thing of beauty, that Tennessee Jam.
Mm-hmm. So who were some of your wrestling heroes growing up?
Well, during when I came up, it was probably the dwindling days of the Attitude Era. Really starting on the Ruthless Aggression. And being a Georgia boy, I have a vivid memory of for Christmas one year getting a Goldberg action figure. And oddly enough, my uncle went to the University of Georgia the same time he was there. And I know it was a class of 300 or 200, but my uncle actually had a class with Bill Goldberg back when he still had hair. But I really was a big fan of The Undertaker. Maybe in the minority on this, but I really liked his Biker Taker era, just because it was different from what a lot I was seeing that time. And when you're a kid like that, you always looked kind of like the action movie guys, and to me that was a lot like what he was. It's something I could find a bit of a realism in. But of course, Jeff Hardy, that match he had with him and Undertaker. That ladder match on Raw was one of the better matches I'd seen in my life. But also had on VHS, I remember my mom actually recorded one night a SmackDown show, and it just so happened to be the first time they had ever actually broke the ring in WWE, when Big Show and Brock Lesnar hit that superplex, and the thing imploded. And there's another one, Brock Lesnar. I love him. He's a freak athlete. Even now, I mean, don't you give me Brock Lesnar when he's 70 versus me, and I still don't like my odds, even if I'm 25, 20, however. But those are two of my big ones. Also like Booker T, just because I've never seen somebody that big break out a scissors kick like that before.
Ain't that the truth?
Oh yeah.
I'm with you on Brock Lesnar. I was actually at the WrestleMania where he tried that shooting star press at WrestleMania 19.
Oh God.
And people talk about the hush in the crowd, and people are like, "Well, that was exaggerated." No, it wasn't. You could hear a pin drop with that.
You see somebody get dumped on their head or fall on their head? No, you can hear a fly fart. I mean, it is it is quiet. But it's weird. You bringing that up. I've seen so much footage from back in like OVW, or when he had little. I don't know if it was some kind of show before Raw. It could have been Sunday Night Heat, or some kind of pre-tape kind of deal, where he would just nail that shooting star. And for whatever reason, probably Kurt was out too far for him to actually nail it. But it's a scary sight seeing that man fly, not only from the top rope onto you, but be able to hit a gainer while he does it.
Yeah.
But
all right, Heartbreaker, what do you got?
All right, so best wrestler turned actor, in your opinion?
It's got to be Dave Bautista. He was recently in a movie that I really liked, Knock at the Cabin. That I didn't listen. I didn't know what to expect going into it, but I was still blown away. And I could be mistaken. I think that's an M. Night Shyamalan film, but he's had a string of some, some misses after, having some great hits. But that one to me really, it just took me by surprise, and I really like the range that he's been able to show. I think Cena is also another good one, and of course, I mean, one of the first ones to do it here. Well, I won't say the first ones, but one of the first ones to do it really well. The Rock, he's just been getting steady work. So I think there goes to show something when you're able to, keep employed and keep finding a job, then you're doing something right.
Absolutely. All right, Tap, what do you got?
Go ahead.
Okay. Top 5 male wrestlers of all time.
All time, I think it's got to be Stone Cold, The Rock. I'd throw in Nature Boy, just be able to do what he did for such a long time. I think Brock Lesnar too, and honestly, you could probably round it out with The Undertaker, but one that I really don't think gets enough credit, and just for being a bad dude, just going back not only in the ring but out of the ring, was Farouk or Ron Simmons. And it's wild to me because normally I can tell the magnitude of somebody's who they were as far as before wrestling by talking to my dad. I was like, so Ron Simmons, right? He's like, oh yeah, I know Ron Simmons. He played they brought him on as linebacker at FSU, but his biceps were too big when he went to catch the ball. He couldn't bring him in all the way together, so they had to put him on the D line. But
Wow.
no, that's an extra one. But all 5 or 6 of those, I just really like the way they work or wrestle. I like the way they're not afraid to bring it. And even with Nate, I mean, for him to be able to go as long as he had in his tenure, I mean, it's just it's just a spectacle just to see him have that long of a career. And even after the plane crash, it just completely changed who he was and how he worked or wrestled. It's just, there's something to be said for it.
Absolutely. All right, Heartbreaker, what do you got?
All right. Well, since you started the top 5s, let's do top 5 tag teams of all time.
Oof. I'm probably going to have to do in no particular order because I could not rank these people. I think you got to put near the top, though, at least. Got to have the Steiners. Got to have the Dudley Boys. And again, another team that's had a great longevity and how they've done things. I'd say New Day here recently. I mean, just be able to do what they've done is wild. And then one of my favorites to watch now, or probably my favorite, I'd say my favorite to watch now is FTR, the Revival, just because the way they work, the way they move, the way they flow is just a thing of just beauty. And one that I'm not happy to say I'm not going to be able to see, have another match is the Briscoe brothers, Jay and Mark, just because, I mean, they were able to draw me in at a point when, like, I wasn't really in wrestling. Like, I'd come home from games on Friday night and my dad would have Ring of Honor taped and I'd watch, both of them just go out there and, I could see a lot of myself in them. And also, I mean, they just had so much charisma, just so much character. It's wild to see, and it sucks with, Jay's untimely passing, but, their legacy, I think, is gonna reign on long after,
Absolutely, and I think everybody on this podcast agrees with the Briscoe one.
Yeah.
Oh, most definitely.
For sure.
All right, Tab, what do you got?
All right. We've asked this question so many times and gotten one odd answer to it. What is your favorite cookie or snack?
I'll try to hit you with both. Um, Cookie. I will say there used to be. I'll do an obscure one first. There used to be this Heath Bar cookie at Heavenly Ham that just used to hit so hard, and I don't know if they still have it around. But as far as something that you could probably widely get, Subway and those the double chocolate where it's a chocolate cookie, but it's got the white chocolate chips.
Yep.
And then for snack here recently, since I'm on a diet, I've just been going hard on the protein bars. Got this birthday cake one I like, and one of the few protein bars that doesn't completely taste like chalk, so I'll take it.
Well, here's something I can say on the podcast that I've never said before. I used to work at a vitamin store for 3 years,
Okay.
and one of my jobs, believe it or not, was tasting protein bars and telling the store which ones to take and which ones to not. Which
That
sometimes
could either
wasn't the
be
yeah,
that could
yeah,
be one of the worst jobs or one of the best ones, depending on the brand.
exactly. But the best one I ever tasted was called the U-turn bar.
Okay. Okay, I'll have
It
to keep an eye out for them for sure.
it tastes like a Snickers.
Ooh. Yeah, now I'm really gonna have to look it up.
Um, so who are some of your biggest rivals?
As far as rivals, probably Hold My Beer Hansen would probably be one of them. We've had off and on matches. A lot of times they've been over for tag belts. My former tag partner is now with their group. But we had some great matches from Alabama to Florida to Georgia. And then for singles, I'd probably say Joe Black is up there for me. We've beat the hell out of each other in multiple states for tons of promotions. It's been a long time coming, and it's kind of throwback on it's a throwback to those all Japan matches you used to see in the late '80s and early '90s, where it wasn't, we're not going to go out and do anything. It's not going to look artful. It's going to be ugly, and it's going to be a slobber knocker. And when you get done, you're going to feel it the next day, and then probably the next day, and then probably the next day after that. But
I love.
that's
Go ahead. Sorry.
oh, you good? I was finishing up.
No, I was just gonna say I love those style of matches. So
It we use the lariat, both of us, and we make contact, and we damn sure follow through. You can see the sweat fly. It's kind of a harkening back to Jumbo Tsuruta type, Kenta Kobashi. Trying to think of another one. Uh, I think it's Kensuke Sasaki. I could be messing it up, but just just absolute knockdown, drag out affairs.
nice. All right, Heartbreaker. What do you got?
Top 5 female wrestlers of all time.
Top five female. Well, I grew up in the area or the era, so I probably would say Victoria. I think one that doesn't get a whole lot of love, unrightfully so, would be Jazz. Her that set out power slam she did is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think. Also, just for like putting her, in an era where a lot of folks were more diva style. I think Molly Holly is a good one. Um, and I think with today's crop, I'd say Charlotte Flair is definitely a really really good one. And to go on non WWE, I think I'm a big fan of Jamie Hayter. Her and Chris Statlander, are just they throw down, and that's not something you see a whole lot. And definitely have a certain kind of taste when it comes to style of wrestling. But I think that definitely appeals to me. That lariat, and then just the athleticism of Statlander is just wild.
I completely agree. All right, Tab. Uh, what you got?
Okay, here's another new one. Out of these three wrestlers, Hangman Adam Page, JBL, and Stan the Lariat Hansen, who has the most devastating clothesline?
Ooh.
Uh, well, if we're going off, I think they have three different styles. To me, Hangman's is more. It's prettier, if that makes sense.
It does.
JBL's sucks to take and looks like it would just decapitate someone, while Stan Hansen's probably has decapitated someone, and I know it's put Vader's eye out. So I'd probably have to go just based on pure, destruction. I'd probably say Stan, just because, hell, he didn't know where he was throwing it half the time. He just knew he was going to throw it hard as hell.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't help when he's half blind.
No.
So who's the biggest name you've wrestled so far in your career?
Um, uh, Cruel. I got to win over Cruel. Or would be Mads Kruger, Logan Creed. Um, Also, we've been in the ring with Judas from NWA, Sour Narrow for the NWA. Try to think who else. Not AJ Kazana, NWA. Also, have been in matches with Alex Kane. I'm having to think. I'd say those are the biggest names that I can think of myself at this time. But they all, in their own way, brought it. I'll say that much.
That's an impressive list, I have to say.
I appreciate it. Just by hook or by crook, I got lucky and gotten to step in the ring with them. I will say the big boys, Judas and Cruel and Kazana, they throw down. And Sour Narrow is one of I'll go ahead and say probably the most underrated talent in the South, if not all of wrestling. I mean, the man's been going. He's a former Ring of Honor tag champion, uh, and he's been going for almost as long as I've been alive. And he's still in phenomenal shape, still wrestling high caliber opponents, and I mean he's still contracted. I mean to me he's one of those guys that should be a household name.
Absolutely. And what I like about him is it takes a very special person to be able to play that type of character that he's playing in the NWA. Right? Like you can't
Yeah.
just pick a guy and be like, "Hey, go play this character." I mean, you have to dive into that character and really like own it. He does that.
Well, and he's just one of those guys. He's off the wall, funny as hell, and he's when he goes into something, he goes whole hog. He don't dip a toe in. He commits, and I've learned so much from working and being around him. He's an asset to any roster. I can honestly say that.
Very nice. All right, Heartbreaker, what do you got?
In your opinion, what do you feel about a woman winning a world heavyweight championship?
I feel like as long as you go and you look as far as like a lot of titles, they'll have different weights behind it. I think a lot that can be the fix, because a lot of times my only issue would just be whatever class it is, because you have guys that are well below heavyweight class, like because I like wrestling to have almost an athletic feel to it as far as how we regulate it. So if it's like an open weight title, or if they say like the main title is an open weight and there's no classifications, I'm all for it. I just like the way UFC probably does their classifications, and they keep it more competition based. And I think as long as they have that designation where it's open weight, and as long as there's somebody who's bad enough, there's a lot of women out there that beat my ass. Like Ronda Rousey's one, And Ronda Rousey, Amanda Nunes, Holly Holm, a lot of those women in the UFC, they are bad. They they are some of the best fighters in the world, and I'm not too big headed to think that they wouldn't just run through me. So I don't think I have an issue with it. To me, I think the main issue at all, if there would be one, would just be the weight class. And I think a lot of that can be solved by just having like MLW does with the open weight. Than like their national open weight, because you don't have to worry about that.
Right. All right, Tap.
Alrighty. What is the worst injury you sustained in the industry so far?
Well, I've broken my nose 3 times. 3 separate incidences, and I don't know if you can hear it, but I could probably pop it into place.
Oh.
I don't know if it was wanting to cooperate with me and be that loud, but no, like there'll be a lot of times I'll be out there in the ring, and that's probably one of my other rituals. I'll try and make sure I'm breathing well through it, and I'll pop it in and just make sure I got good airflow. But that's probably my biggest one as far as in wrestling, and that's happened. It's happened a few times, and hopefully it'll be the last. But we'll see how that goes.
Oh, before you ask your question there, Nathan, my biggest injury is having to listen to paint dry from my 2 co-hosts.
Oh God.
My ears bleed after the podcast.
No, they ain't bad. They chirping right up.
See, now we can't even hear the host.
Oh.
Yeah. So top 5 managers of all time.
I think you got to put Bobby the Brain Heenan up there. You think you got to put Paul Heyman up there. You got to put Jim Cornette on there. And honestly, I like Joel Gertner. I don't know if he qualifies as much as for manager, but just the promos he'd cut and the way he could control a room, I definitely have to put him on there. And I think just for what he did for the character of Taker, I'd put Paul Bearer on there as well.
I like that.
I appreciate it.
And Mr. Heartbreaker, before you ask your question, why are you telling me I sound like paint dry when you look like a combination of Harry Potter and Baby Huey?
Yeah, well, at least the women want me.
Again, in your own mind. All we see behind you is a wall.
Okay. But, aren't you the host of the show? You're supposed to make the flow. You haven't even done your sponsors yet, dude.
Because you already did them at the beginning of the show.
I did 3 of 12. So, thank you, Kevin Watson, American Family Insurance. Precision Power Washing. Doty Gallery Tattoo. North American Tarp Rugged Made. Kathy's Clutters. El Rancheros Mexican Restaurant. Bruce Nichols Painting. Los Jalapenos Taqueria. The Care Program. Bruno's Pizza. Burgerville of Longview Kelso. And hey, when you go to that tattoo parlor, make sure you tell them that Smalls sent you. And then again, for our 3 new sponsors, thank you, Pro Caliber Motorsports, LifeWorks, and Sterling Honda. That, sir, is how you cover your sponsors.
There you go.
That works. Now, do you have a question?
Well, I had to do your job, so Principal Tapass, you're up.
Before I ask my question, throw the Messiah in detention for me.
Yeah, right. You ain't big enough to put me in detention.
Oh, she's coming. Don't worry.
So you can ask your question.
Um, if this guy hadn't been in a car accident, who would literally win in a match between Ric Flair and Magnum TA?
All right, so Magnum holds a place in my heart because that belly to belly suplex he does is almost the same way I try to do mine. So I think just off of that alone, I've got to go with Magnum. The way he pops his hips, gets underneath him, he looks like a linebacker going in for a form tackle. I love it. So I think on most nights Nate gets it, but I think on this particular night I'm gonna have to go with Magnum.
All right, nice. Okay, so I have a new one. In your opinion, who was, since you said you played football in college and stuff, who was the better football player turned wrestler?
Uh, well, Stan Hansen was, or no, Steve Williams was a All American in both wrestling and football, but just the way things shook up here in the States as far as, his career and everything. I think he had a better athletic career, but I think as far as, just pure uh, being great in both, I think Ron Simmons is definitely up there. But I mean, a lot of people don't realize this. I think Lex Luger actually had a stint in the NFL, if I'm not mistaken. And then I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to say because then you also got Brian Pillman, but he's almost got a situation similar to Steve Williams. As later on it got, after the injury to his ankle, it just wasn't the same. So for me, it's gonna have to be Ron Simmons, especially with him being a Georgia boy. I can't help but say it.
Yeah. And you said that Magnum holds a special spot in your heart, because you do the belly to belly, uh, Dr. Death holds a special spot in mine because before I did this podcast many years ago, I did a internet radio show with the original Pitbull, Gary Wolf.
Oh yeah,
And,
oh yeah,
and one of the interviews we did was the last interview for Dr. Death, Steve Williams from Japan
really,
before he passed away.
man. I I'm jealous. I'd love to pick his brain because that dude. I mean, he was legit, and he just happened to get saddled with that unfortunate incident when they decided to do the brawl for all, and kind of followed him for the rest of his stint in WWF. But that was a legit guy. That was a
Oh
guy
yeah,
that was certified in two different sports for a huge university at Oklahoma, and then went abroad into Japan and just became a terror. Um, but yeah, I love me some Doctor Death, and that's who a lot of promoters have actually tried to book or to use me similar to, and so that that's another one that I really have an immense amount of respect for.
yeah. And the funny thing about that was you could feel like it was over the phone, and you could feel the intensity through the phone, like
Oh
when he
yeah,
was talking. So the intensity on the screen wasn't just on the screen. Like that was that was him.
I couldn't imagine being across the ring looking down at him. I mean that's like looking down the barrel of a 45. I mean that's intense.
All right, Heartbreaker, what do you got?
Oh, I was just going back and forth listening to paint dry. Sorry, I fell asleep.
Yeah, you were just daydreaming about those supposed women that want you.
Oh Lord.
Okay, let's do top 5 commentators of all time.
Uh, Definitely like Jim Ross. Uh, like Mauro Ranallo a lot, just because he came from a boxing background, and also got some good time in at NXT. I think Michael Cole has his moments. Um, I like. Joey Styles too is another one. Just has a lot of energy, similar to Morrow. And I do like. I want to say I get them confused. Mike Tenay, more the bald headed guy, I think, from TNA.
Yeah.
He's another one. Him and Dom West as a pair were great.
Oh yeah, they were.
And even Shivani, I being again from Georgia, got to hear him a good bit, and him being a former Braves radio personality, it again kind of has to be a little near and dear.
Yep. All right, Tap, what do you got?
Alrighty. If you could wrestle one of these two wrestlers, who would you choose over? Legged Ronnie Garvin or Raging Bull Manny Fernandez?
I think I got to go with Ronnie Garvin. Just if Randy Orton is still using some of your strikes today, there must be something there. And regrettably, I haven't watched as much, Manny Fernandez, but I knew he too was a bad SOB. But I think I got to go with Ronnie Garvin.
So if you had a dream opponent from any generation, no questions asked. So if the promoter came up to you and said, pick your opponent, who would it be and why?
That's a tough one. I think just because he's one of my favorite wrestlers, and we've been in the same buildings and work a lot of the same shows. Not saying, at the same time by any means, but I just think AJ Styles, the things he can do, the things he has done in the confines of a ring, just never ceases to blow my mind. So I think that'd be a really, really fun time. Just being able to play off that, back and forth. I mean, it's kind of one of those. He's pretty built, but I'd say I'm bigger, so we could probably almost have that David and Goliath kind of dynamic. And I think that'd be. I mean, I live for those kind of matches, so I think it'd be a lot of fun. But I think I'd go with AJ.
Very nice. All right, Heartbreaker, what do you got?
Well, I'm not going to ask a wrestling question because I think I found a true fan just like I am. So, my question is, what are the Braves' chances this year in the World Series?
Well, they're the first team to clinch. So,
Amen to that, brother.
I mean, they're running roughshod. I think I saw on somewhere, I think almost half the team has over 30 or 40 home runs. I mean,
Yep.
I think Ronald Acuna just broke a record for most stolen bases and home runs in a season.
Yep.
I mean, you got Spencer Strider out there just throwing, over 10, 12. I think he even got 15 strikeouts a game. I mean, they're just tearing it up, and it's great to finally have an Atlanta team to be proud of because it's been a while. I remember being at a bar in Valdosta watching the Falcons blow a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl. So it's been tough being a Atlanta sports fan, but Braves would make it a little bit easier.
And don't forget Matt Olson's 51 home runs.
There you go. He's crushing the leather off the ball. I mean, it's a thing of beauty to be able to see that. And, especially in my lifetime. I mean, they got the pennant last year. We'll see if they can bring home another.
You see, and this is why I'm a true sports fan. This is why I'm the Heartbreaker Boys, because I have a class that's going to win the World Series this year, unlike your Dodgers and your Mariners.
Hey, the Mariners
got a
still have a
case.
chance to. the Mariners still have a chance to make it into the playoffs and make a big run. Probably not as big as the Braves, but I got to hold it out for my hometown team. So
I respect that fully.
We will see what the Dodgers can do.
That's all you can do.
Losing.
Playoffs are another ball game. Once you get in that stretch, you don't know what's going to happen. I've seen better teams lose, and I've seen worse teams win.
all right, Tap, what do you got?
All right. Your all-time trios tag team.
So any trio?
Any trio of all time, any generation.
Oof. I think I'd have to go with. I know it's not really a true trio considering there's four of them, but I think I got to throw up the four with the four horsemen: Tully, Arn, Flair. I mean, and then it seemed like a lot of those years the fourth man was a rotation of sorts, but I think I got to go with the four horsemen.
A great choice. So now we're going to have you put your Booker hat on. And if you could book a dream WrestleMania card from any generation, indies are available, 6 matches, who would be on the card?
I think Vader Brock would probably be my main event.
Ooh.
I think the Dudleys and the Steiners would be a hell of a tag match. Let's see. I think me. I'd like to see Taker and Sting. Never happened. That'd be another one that'd be good to see. I think Daniel Bryan and Dean Malenko would be a clinic.
Ooh.
I think also probably going to go for another tag. I'd like to see. It's kind of an odd one, but I think Harlem Heat versus FTR would be pretty wild.
Ooh.
Oh, I like that one.
And then for as far as I think a nice good women's match, I'd like to see Jazz versus Charlotte Flair. I don't know how many matches I'm at now.
I think you're
that's-
at like 5.
Yeah.
All right, let's get something nice and hot to start off the show. I would say I think Hayabusa and AJ Styles would be wild. I think this stuff they could break out. Nope. I mean, both of them being some of the better light heavyweights, cruiserweights in their day. So I think, no pun intended, there wouldn't be much of a styles clash. It'd be a whole lot of movement, a whole lot of flying, and I think it'd start 90-0. I think it'd only get faster from there.
Yeah, amen.
I have to throw a special attraction in that one. I would have thrown Nikita Koloff versus Gunther.
That'd be a good one too. That'd be a really solid one. I probably would say for him. I've already used my Vader already, so I would have said Vader and Gunther. But I mean, yeah, that'd be a hell of a match.
All right, Heartbreaker, what do you got?
Sorry again. I was listening to paint dry and fell asleep. Why don't you go ahead and take it, Messiah?
You were just looking at grandmas on the phone because that's the only women that you think want you, don't you? But okay, I can.
Well, actually, I'm doing your Hall of Fame dinner for your promotion. If you really must know.
Yes, but that still doesn't stop me from busting your balls, so I'm gonna do that anyway. Um, so if you had a dream tag team partner from any generation, what would it be and why? Or who would it be and why?
Hate to repeat myself, but I think Dr. Death would be a badass tag team partner to have. Uh, just because I think there'd be a lot of similarities in the styles, and I think a lot of the moves we could hit would just be just wild. That'd probably be one of my favorites for sure. It wouldn't be a whole lot of flash. It'd be a whole lot of smash.
Amen. All right, Tap, what you got?
All right, I'm gonna have you put your manager's hat on. If you could manage 3 wrestlers, who would they be and why?
Well, as far as making my job easy, I think MJF would be a good one, just being the heat magnet he is. Um, I think just because I could talk somebody up a lot, I think Dr. Death again would be another fun one. Um, and then one that I think I would just have a lot of fun doing. Let me think. I'd probably oh I'd like to manage Will Hobbs. I've been a big Will Hobbs fan since he broke in. Um, big big dude with a hellacious spine buster, and having one myself, that's something I can definitely relate to, and I think it'd be fun to hype him up.
Very nice. All right, Heartbreaker, what you got?
Dude, busy.
Okay. Um. So, how did your finishers come to be?
Um, well, I had a few different ones. Uh, Starting off, it was always the frog splash, and mainly because I just like the idea of a big dude just coming off the top. And if you're gonna have something in the match, it might as well be that. And so I did that for a good 3, 4 years until my knees started getting to me, and decided to change it up to something a little bit easier to do, at least on my body. And so I've just been going with the lariat. But the way I put the spin on my lariat is I take a big crow hop like an outfielder, and I hike my knee up about 2 or 3 foot off the canvas, and then I just follow through like I'm throwing a dart from 300 feet out in dead center field, and it makes contact and it makes a lot of noise, and a lot of sweat flies, and so do a lot of bodies.
Very nice. Sounds like a nasty lariat.
It it's one of they say if you're gonna throw it, you might as well throw it, and I take that to heart.
All right, Tap, what do you got?
All right, out of these 2 wrestlers, which one would you enjoy taking a chop from? Ric Flair or Gunther?
I think just because of the sheer amount of mass and muscle behind it, I think Gunther is probably more likely to cave my chest in. Flair, I think, is more precise to where he'll get you in the same spot over and over and over again and bust you open that way. But I think just for the sheer power behind it, I think I'd have to go with Gunther or Walter.
Nice. Um, what's the craziest match you've ever been in?
Well, it's one that I kind of inadvertently came up with, a Swamp Rules match. They were wanting to use something with my gimmick, and we damn sure did. They had camo taped ropes. They had nets all over. There were oars on the outside of the ring. They had a cauldron full of swamp water, and it was essentially an Extreme Rules match. And that was one of the matches I broke my nose in. Um, there was that one, and then there was also a Rejects Rules match, which is the only time I've ever actually bled during a match. It was against the Devil's Rejects, which is Tank and Azrael, and that was at Anarchy Wrestling up at Landmark Arena versus me and my then tag partner. And Tank took that sickle to my head, busted me open, and then skewered me with the steak skewers. So that was definitely a rough night at the office. We ended up winning, but you wouldn't be able to tell based on the aftermath.
All right, Tap, what you got?
All right, if you could choose one of the four promotions to work for, WWE, AEW, Impact, or New Japan, who would you wrestle for, and who would your opponent be in that promotion?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact I've never left the country. And because I really like the style, I think I'd like to go over to Japan and try my hand there. Um, and I think somebody who would be a lot of fun to work would be, well, the ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi, just because, I mean, he's been at it for as long as he has, and he's been at the top of his game for as long as he has. And I think that we could both do things that could complement each other, and I think it'd be a lot of fun.
That would be a killer match.
I'd enjoy it. I definitely would.
I would definitely watch it.
Hopefully you wouldn't be watching me get my ass handed to me, but that's another time for another story.
No, I think you'd be able to hold your own.
I can only hope.
So what's the craziest crowd you've ever wrestled in front of?
There's been a few. That Rejects Rules match was wild because we sold out the building just based on that match, and being able to be a part of that and be a part of the main event and just hearing that crowd when they came back. I mean, there was the building's only supposed to hold about 150. Well, they jammed almost 400 in that night, and just the noises they were making was insane. But I think my favorite place to work, as far as crowd wise, was the last time I was at Classic City Wrestling in Athens, Georgia, at the 40 Watt Club, which is famous for just being one of the wildest music venues in Atlanta, or in Athens. It's where Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love used to write notes back and forth. You can still see it on the walls. They've had tons and tons of different musical acts like the Flaming Lips. I think they've had just I could go I can't ever remember to take a photo of all the posters they have of all the acts, but more than likely, if you're a fan, they've been there. But that was another sold out show we did, and just wall to wall people. And it's even more fun when it's a college crowd. They're all drinking and they're all ready to see something. They don't know what exactly, so they're going to bite into a lot of stuff, but it's a great time. It's a great time.
Very nice. Okay, Tap, you want to ask your final question?
Where can we find, when is your next match, and where can we find you on social media?
My next match will be in Panama City, Florida for XIW. It's yet to be announced, so I don't want to give anything away. And that'll be at the start of October. I don't readily have the date on hand. And then I want to say October 27th, or might be the 20th. I'll be in Tifton for Sunbelt Wrestling Entertainment, where I'm currently the Sunbelt Heavyweight Champion. I'll be defending my title against the Flying Fro. and it looks to be a good show. We'll be out there at the Harley dealership, and hopefully they'll have some bikes on hand and they'll be making some noise. But as far as social media, you can find me on Facebook at Proc Johnson. You can find me on Instagram at proc.the.croc or proc_the_croc. I've had to get one or a different account, got blocked out of another one, and then got let back in. And then I'm on Twitter at proc.the.croc. And also got a YouTube page, Proc Johnston, and also on TikTok. I barely get on there, I think, but if you look up Proc Johnson, I'll be there.
And my last question would be, when your career is over, what's the mark you want to leave on the wrestling business?
Um, that I did things the right way, gave a hand when I could give a hand. And they say leave it all out there on the field. I want to be able to leave it all out there in the ring. Leave no stone unturned, or don't wonder if you ever gave enough.
Very nice. Hey, Heartbreaker, if you're not busy, do you have another question or one last question or?
Well, I think you need to thank your sponsors again. So I guess I'll do your job for you one last time.
Just gonna do that, but I was gonna give you a chance to shine, even though the
Yeah. Okay, shut up, paint drying, you Orange Cassidy loving freak.
Hey, the man, I know talent when I see it, and the man's a talented wrestler. The fact that you can't see it through those Coke bottle glasses you got on.
He has no talent. Tell me another wrestler that wrestles with his damn hands in his pocket. Who the hell knows what he's playing with down there?
That's what gives him talent. He's doing something original.
Who the hell knows what he's playing with?
Yeah, but you like someone that cheats to help his friends win.
But anyways, move on. Do your sponsors, and let's let this man go to training.
Well, we'd like to thank Los Jalapenos Taqueria, El Ranchero's Mexican restaurant in Longview, Washington, Bruce Nichols Painting for all your painting, pressure washing, and mud removal needs, Power Pressure Washing and you can find him on Facebook. Doty's Tattoo in Vancouver, and tell him Smalls sent you. And American Tarps Rugged Made, also in Longview, Washington. And our three newest ones, Sterling Honda, Soul Caliber, and the Life Works in Longview, Washington.
Pretty good.
Thank
you. Did you get Kathy's clutters?
Oh, sorry, Kathy's clutters. My apologies, Kathy.
Did you get Bruno's?
My apologies, Bruno. Which is funny because I was just thinking about people.
And they're also your sponsor, your Hall of Fame dinner for your promotion, and you forget Bruno's.
Yes, I know.
What kind of a promoter are you? Anyways.
A good one.
Not if you keep forgetting your sponsors, you're not.
Oh, and I would like to remind everybody about the Inclusion Pro Wrestling show that's coming up on November 25th at 7 o'clock. Doors open at 6 p.m. at the Rain Church in Kelso. It's also going to be a toy drive for Shriners, Dornbeckers, and Randall's Children's Hospital. So if you're interested, we have tickets for sale, $25 for ringside, $20 for general admission. You can contact the Heartbreaker or myself on Facebook. And my name on Facebook is Nathan Doss for availability of tickets. Also, you can call the Inclusion phone number for tickets, which is 360-560-2219. And also, I believe we just got signed up with Eventbrite, so you might be able to find it on there also. And come out and have a great night with us. So,
As of right now, your tickets for Eventbrite are your Hall of Fame dinner tickets. I have not gotten any of the other tickets on there yet. I am working on that.
okay.
But it's hard to promote a wrestling promotion and produce a podcast and as only one person. So, you know.
Hey, give me one more minute. I can make this short. I want to give Mr. Johnson kind of a thought of what our promotion, the reason we decided to run a promotion. I have cerebral palsy, so I'm in a wheelchair. And 20 years ago, I was able to go to a wrestling school in Kelso, Washington, and was told that I wouldn't be involved in wrestling because I'm in the chair and, you know, wrestling is a physical sport. Right? But I'm the type of person that if you tell me I can't do something, that's just going to make me want to do it even more. And so I kept coming back, and they let me be a commentator and a booker at some point, but I think they did that just to make themselves feel better. So after 20 years, I've been able to buy a ring that Roddy Piper was in. And now we're going to put on a show, and the promotion's going to stand for not letting anybody be discriminated against and giving everybody a chance to live their wrestling dream. So if you want to come in and, you know, try something out, go ahead, right? And if after 5 minutes you decide it's not for you, fine, but you got to live your wrestling dream for that, you know, that 5 minutes.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. That was the longest 2 minutes of my life.
Yeah, well.
Anyways, we'd like to thank Mr. Proc for coming on tonight. And please join us tomorrow night for Tiger Man Jr.
Yeah.
And until next time, we will see you guys later. Oh, and Messiah, the hospital called. You need to get your staples out of your incision. So please go do that.
Have that done for another 10 days. Thank you very much.
So please go have that done. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow night, guys.
Thank y'all for having me.